Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Gittin daf Nun Dalid. We're going to begin on Nun Dalid Amud Aleph, about 10 lines from the top, from the words Tashma coming here. So we were discussing whether or not we are going to be Geyser Shogeg Otumezid, and it could be dependent on whether we're dealing with a Din Derabanan or Deraisa. Tashma, Ochel Truma Tamei. Let's say you have a non-Kohen who is certainly not allowed to eat truma, and he did, but he didn't eat regular truma. It was impure already. So the din is Mishalm Chulin Tahirin. He has to pay back for having eaten this Chulin food, but it also has to be tahar. It has to be pure. What happens if Shilim Chulin Tamein Mahu? What's the din if he at least got it half right? He returned chulin, but it happened to be the chulin was tamei. Now let's not forget, he ate already truma, which was tamei, and he's giving back something which is tamei. So the question is that acceptable? So Omer Sumchas Mishum Rameir B'Shogeg, if he gave him back chulin, which is tamei, but he only did it B'Shogeg, so tashlum of tashlumin, then in fact it is accepted, and he doesn't have to give anything else. However, b'mezid ein tashlum of tashlumin. So we see a distinction between b'shogeg and b'mezid. B'shogeg, it's okay. B'mezid, it's not. In both situations, the accepting of this chulin tamei is accepted. However, we require him to repeat it and send chulin again, but this time pure. Now, but we ask the question. So, b'mezid amayin tashlum of tashlumin. Why would we say, according to Rameir, that it's not acceptable, the fact that you gave chulin tamei, but tabula bracha, the achel mine midi doloi chazile, b'midi tumasai, v'kameshalmeid midi dechazile b'midi tumasai. So he gave him something that's not fit in the days of Tuma of the Kohen. That's what he consumed, and he's paying him back with something that is fit b'mei tumasai. So you're not allowed to eat truma tameya. However, a Kohen, while he's tummy, could eat chulin tameya. So he's actually doing something seemingly pretty good for the Kohen. Yom Rabbi Yom Lo K'di, some say without any names, chaser mechzal. This is actually what it means. Achol truma tameya, if he ate truma which was already tamei, so misham koldahu, he can give back anything. We're not going to argue because after all, he ate truma that the Kohen himself can't eat. Achol truma tahara. What instead the Yisrael, the Zar, ate truma tahara. So mishalim chulin tahara. So he said, in that situation, since he ate truma tahara, it makes sense that he should give back something which is tahar, chulin tahar. What if, in that case, shilim chulin tamei and mahu? What's the din if instead he gave tamei? So sumchas mishim rameir b'sheg tashlum of tashlumin. B'mezid and tashlum of tashlumin. So in this, we say that b'mezid, it doesn't count. B'shogeg, it's acceptable because he did give him something back, because the Kohen technically could eat it when he's tamei. However, b'mezid, it's not acceptable. So we see Rameir is not geyser shogeg of tamezid over here. The whole machlokas has to do with whether we're geyser shogeg atumezid. The Rameir savar lo kansu shogeg atumezid chamim amrim kansu. So this is a question. This is a case of derabbanan. This whole issue over here that's being presented is a din derabbanan. Look in Rashi. Tashlum of tashlumin. The hein nasin truma umamin koyen. That he could actually be mekadosh a woman with it technically. However, he has to pay him again, as we said, because of kanas. Okay. Fine. So again, let's just see a couple of these Rashis. First one line. If, let's say, for example, the non-Kohen ate truma tameya, he can give back kol dahu. Kol shehu chulin bein tahar bein tamein. He can give anything, tamei or tahar. Okay. So what exactly is the question? This is a derabbanan, and we see Rameir does not make a kanash shogeg atumezid. He makes a distinction between shogeg and mezid. But in our Mishnah, by a case of the Rabbanan, which is the rabbinic, we do make a kanas shagig atu mezid. So Gemara says hachi hashta hasam gavan shulmi kamachavin ana nekam v'liknasei. So normally you're right. When it comes to a shogeg, maybe we are going to be geyser shogeg atu mezid, but we have to look at this person. This person is not doing anything intentionally wrong. Okay, fine, he shouldn't have eaten that truma as a non-Kohen, but look what he's doing. He's trying to pay back. He's doing something good. So if it was b'shogeg, we're not going to be geyser. Says Rashi. If you make something tameh, or you mix chulin and truma together, you're up to no good. So therefore we are geyser. So that's a huge distinction. It's not the same. When you're matama, you weren't doing a good thing. Therefore, although you're b'shogeg, nonetheless we're going to geyser. But here, his intentions were good, to pay back for his mistakes. So therefore, we're not going to kanas him. So now, we're not going to kanas? No, we won't. Okay. And that's going to be a similar shakavatara we're going to be seeing throughout. Tashma. So come in here. Dam shenitma. If you have dam that became tameh, so that's not supposed to be put on the mizbech. But let's say v'zarku, and you did the zrika anyway, even though you're not supposed to. So it depends. B'shogeg hurtza. If you did it b'shogeg, then it will be accepted. As Rashi says, the tzitz of the Kohen Gadol will cause it to be meratzeh, and therefore you'll be able to eat basar. Mutter basar b'achila. But mezid lo hurtza. So we see again there's a distinction between shogeg and mezid in this case. So again, you can say, oh, it's a kasha rameir. We see clearly when here again we're not geyser shogeg amazing. Yeah, we're not going to do that because this guy is trying to do a kapara over here. He may not have everything correct because he's sprinkling something which is tameh, but at least we see that he's trying to do something positive. So we're not going to kanas such a person. Toshma, hamasir b'Shabbos. So again, a person is not allowed to take off meiser on Shabbos. That's an isid rabbanon, as is brought down in the last parak of Masechtas Beya. There are certain things which are a shvushel mitzvah, including separating trumas and meisers. And the reason is because it looks like you're masakin. It's a form of fixing something. So in that situation, which is the same thing as like being matbel a kli, immersing a kli. So it's like this. So we make a distinction again. We're not geyser b'shogeg, you can still eat it, even though you separated b'shogeg. Right? It says hachi hashta. We're not going to be geyser there because hasam gavos kuni komachavin. This guy's trying to fix things. He's trying to put things into the mikvah. He's trying to separate Trumas and Meisers, albeit on Shabbos he's not supposed to. But we see he's trying to do the right thing. We're not going to kanas him. Tashma. Hamatbil kelim b'Shabbos. For the same reason, if a person immerses vessels, b'shogeg yishtamish and you could use them. Mezel yishtamish b'hen. So again, we see we're not geyser. So it's the same answer. Hacha hashta. How could you compare the two? Hasam gavra latehuri mani kamachavin. His intention is to purify the kalim. A non-leikim bliknase, we're not going to kanasa. Rabbi Yehuda, but a Rabbana. We're actually going to ask a steer Rabbi Yehuda onto Rabbi Yehuda. The sign is we continue on Nundal and Mabez. We learn as follows. It's brought down that naflu v'nispatsu. Let's say, says Rashi, a geizi perech, expensive nuts. Ein batelin, they will not be bottled. Afil be'elef, even 1 to 1,000. Nechashivusan, because they're very chashiv. So nitzpatzu hegoizim. Let's say they got crushed, and they're shel arla. V'achach naful atoich shel heter, and then they fell into a heter. So yalu. So in that case, we do say it covers it could become bottle. That's because it first became crushed and then it fell in. However, the other way around, if naful tchila, if it fell in first, v'achach nispatzu, and then it got crushed, then maybe not. So let's see back in the Gemara. Naflu, if these expensive nuts fell in first, they got mixed in first, Then mispot, so they got crushed. Echad shogeg echad mezid lo yalu. The Rameir says it doesn't make any difference. Even b'shogeg, we say that it's not going to be bottle. Rabbi Yehuda, Dibra Rabbi Yehuda, maybe Dibra Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda. Dibra Rameir, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shogeg yalu b'mezid lo yalu. So they actually make a distinction between shogeg and mezid. Now, why does Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda say echad b'shogeg echad mezid? It must be because they have a kanas. They're shogeg atu mezid. Says Rashi, Isur, and this is an Isur d'Rabbanan ba'almahu. This is an Isur d'Rabbanan. Be'afil shleimin, even if they're whole. Why? So Rashi says, Demid d'Oraisa, according to Torah law, in chiluk bein choshev l'she'enu choshev. The hakol batal d'chsiv acharam lahatais Rabbanan hu degazer. So it's interesting when we say that a davar choshev is not batal. That's only din d'Rabbanan. In Oraisa, we employ the pasuk of achrei rabba lahatais. Then we go bust a rove. So b'deraisa we go bust a rove. It's just the b'Rabbanan al chashivas we say it's not. It doesn't work. So we see that over here when it comes to a din d'Rabbanan, he's still geyser shogeg atu mezid. The b'hacha the b'deraisa chad b'trei batal. As we said, 1 to 2 is batal. Rabbanan who the geyser, the Rabbanan are geyser v'kal kanas Rabbi Yehuda. So we see in this case Rabbi Yehuda is geyser shogeg atu mezid, where elsewhere he's not. The hasam had Rabbi Yehuda mishum de'asi. The reason is not because of being geyser shogeg atu mezid. We're concerned of this individual who may engage in trickery. He can say, "Oh, you know, I didn't realize, I didn't know," and his whole intention was in order so that it should become batal. So he can play those games. So therefore, we're more strict. Rabbi Yosi said Rabbi Yosi. So we have a steer in Rabbi Yosi. So Rabbi Yosi said he made a distinction when it came to these expensive nuts between shogeg and mezid. He's not geyser shogeg atu mezid. Dinan, we learned netiya shel arla. When it comes to the plantings of arla trees, v'shel kilai karim, which they themselves are aser. Now let's say that shnis arvu b'netiya sacheros. They got commingled with others. So harizel yilakate. So the din is that you cannot gather them. Says Rashi, the kolzman shehibim kaima, as long as they're in their place. It's like they're attached to the ground. They're not batal. When you gather them up, there's a din of ein mavatal isel chatchila, which is what would be the case here. Now, let's say you gather them up, and let's say you weren't paying attention, then a 1 to 200 ratio will kick in. It has to be, of course, that you did not have intention. You did not have the kavanah to be mavatal, because in mavatal isel chatchila, unless you didn't have the kavanah. Now, then we bring Rav Yossi, who's going to be a stira. Rav Yossi Omer, Av ha-meschavin l'lakid yal be'echad masayim. Even if you're meschavin, the din is that it will still be 1 to 200. Now, he made before the distinction, he said, between shogeg and mezid. Over here, Rav Yossi is saying there is no difference. So we see that even b'mezid it should be batal. So, hit marla, marava, chazaka ein adam oiser es karmo b'netiya achas. We can probably assume that a person is not going to aser his vineyard with one planting. Let's look at Rashi. There is no person that arla who's going to be planting arla trees, bein shar netios, together with all of his other trees below simon, without making any markers that this tree is aser. The oiser karmo bishvil netiachas. He's basically going to say, because he has no idea what this tree is, he's going to end up causing that everything around it is going to be aser, because we're not going to know which one it is. Therefore, it's not shchiach for a person to basically not recognize what trees are arla. Well, achmer bo rabban. The rabban are not going to go strict in that situation, and that's why even b'mezid will say it works. That'll be batal. Avol nefilas iser beheter shchicha. However, throwing some expensive nuts together so as to be mavatal it, so that is something which is likely, and therefore because of that we are geyser shogeg atu mezid. Okay, we're geyser in that situation, but mezid. Okay, question 12. Nafal geyzi perach shel arla. So they fell in, upatson, and then they got all crushed. So mezid kedei levatlin, you did on purpose, right? Netia shel arla nisarva bacheros. However, let's say you have a tree of arla which got mixed up with the others. You don't know which one. V'lachtan bekavana, and you plucked out with intention kedei levatlin to mevatel it. Im batel libra of Yosi Maishna is Rachel Maseifa. Which is in the Reisha, it's not batel, the Seifa, it is batel. Why? So the Seifa is not shliach. Because it's a chazak in the Ma'aser b'karmim and tiachas. You're not going to ask your whole field. You're going to know what you're doing. However, the field is Isser with Heter shchicha. However, throwing Isser together with Heter to be mavatel is something which a person may end up doing, and therefore for that reason, we say it is an issue. Okay. Fine. Let's look at question TB 23. Madura Meir kanas shagigat umezid behezek shenu nicker below kanas as a meiser hamatbel b'shabbos b'shagig. So as we said, because in over here this person is trying to mimsakin and do things. He's doing good things. So certainly we shouldn't kanas this person for that. TB 23. Okay, so that is the answer that was brought down by both, being Makbel Kalim B'Shabbos, as well as a person who is Maser B'Shabbos. So we make a distinction between B'Shaygeg and B'Mezid, that B'Shaygeg Yishtamish B'hen, or you can eat, but not B'Mezid. Again, because Gavra L'Techure Mani Kamachavin, his intention is to do the right thing. So Anon Leikum Liknase, we're not going to kanas such a person. Okay. Let's now see the next Mishnah. Hakohanim shepiglu b'mikdash. Now, a Kohen has the koyach when he's engaged in various avodas to cause pigul, to cause through a machshava of saying that this should be consumed beyond the proper place or beyond the proper time frame of the carbon. So that could possibly the carbon make it not hortza. For the Baal. So the din is, b'mikdash mazid and chayavin. If he did it on purpose, he is going to be chayav. So it says the Gemara, Tanabah, hayoisimo b'taharos. Let's say you have an individual who is engaged in taharos. The amrulo, and they said to him, taharos shasisi imcha nitmu. The taharos that I was engaged with you, actually, unfortunately, they became tameh. So, in that situation, let's say, for that matter, a person is engaged in karbanos, the karbanos that was engaged with, nispalglu, they became pasul because of my machshava. Neman, in this situation, he's believed, says Rashi, we're talking about, as we're going to see, it's still in his power lataman to make it tame, ulfaglon, or to make it pigul. The gabi karbanos bekoin ha'omid kamayri. We're talking about a situation where the kohen is like standing there and still has the ability to make things tame at this precise moment. Let's say, for example, he makes this declaration that he made it pigul or tame between shchita and zrika. The Omer, let's say again about pigul, pigalte b'shchita, that during the slaughtering of the animal, I had this improper machshava. She'adayin biyado lefalgo b'shar avodos. So he still could have done pigul by zrika. So therefore, since it's biyado, so therefore he's going to be believed. Avo, back in the Gemara, Amar lo taharisha sisi imcha b'yoim ploini. Yeah, a few days ago, I know I was engaged in taharos. Nitmu, they became tameh. They were actually tameh a few days ago. Uzvacham shasisim chabiyoyim ploini nispaglu enunem. In that situation, he's not believed. So mashna reisha mashna safe. Why is he not believed? So Rabbi kol shibiyadai neman, as we said, because it was in his hands to be able to do so in the reisha, because it was between shchita and zrika. So therefore, he could have still made it tameh. So we believe him. However, if he's testifying on something which happened a few days ago, no, that much he's not believed because it's no longer in his power to be able to do anything. Rabbi Omer kigayin di ashkachei v'loy amrulei Lomidi. Let's say he found him. He didn't say anything the first time he met him. Ulbasar Hachi Ashche, and then he found him another time, Yarmule, and then he said something. So it says Rashi, Al B'Yishin B'Yad Nema. Now, even though it's not B'Yado, he still believed. The Sefer could go into Ashche Mekmei Idna, V'Imrule V'Hashdo Imrule. So he saw him before and said nothing. So the first time, only later you tell him it's Tameh. So why are you telling me now? You should have told me right away. The fact that you had the opportunity to tell me before and you didn't probably means that now you just are causing problems and you're not going to be believed. So now we have the following couple of stories. A person said to his friend the following: So again, like the Seifa, that I was engaged in Taharas with you a few days ago. I have to tell you, unfortunately, they're Tameh. Oskamei du Rabbi, our Malay Shuras Hadin, according to the Din, Eino Neman. He's actually not going to be believed, which is as what we just said in the Seifa. He's not believed. Our Mulafan of Rabasi, Rabbi Ata Omer Kain. Do you say this? Hacham Rav Yochanan Misham Rav Yosi Ma Esa. What should I do? Shahatayra Ha'emin Nasai. The Torah actually does believe him, right? That even after time, we still believe him. So, Heichen Ha'emin Nasai. Where do we find that he'd still be believed? So, Amarab Yitzchak Bar Bisna Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippur Melchiach. What is that? When it comes to the Kohen Gadol, says Rashi, Bipar V'Sayir. When it comes to the Karbanos of the Avodas Hayom, the bringing of the par and the higot, the Sa'ir Shalaf Nim, it's brought inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Shehu Sham Yachid. He is the only person there. Ve'ein ro'ehu, no one else could see it. There's no cameras. Yim Omer Pigol Mehimen. If he says over there that, you know what, I had an improper thought, we believe him. So, since when it comes to Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim, we believe him, even though, you know, he could have just made it up because there's no one else around, we still believe him. So therefore, we're going to believe him over here as well. So when it comes to Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, back in the Gemara, if he says pigol, then in fact he's believed. And how do we know that he's believed to say that's pigol? There's no one else around. Must be because we believe the Kohen Gadol himself. It's not that there was any Eidos or anyone else watched. We believe the person's testimony. Now, Dilma Dimashamni Depogil. Maybe they actually heard him say this. As Rashi Ki Amar Kra Pigel Ye Dishamin Depogil Bekol Ra. Yemahareni Mazel Manasl Hakte Murim Chutz Lizman. Maybe he actually made this declaration and everyone overheard it. But maybe he himself is not believed on his own. So if it wasn't the fact that he would be believed, even though we heard it, he still wouldn't, because Dilma Labasar Hakikamer, maybe afterwards he would say, Dilma de Chazine B'Pishpesh, says Rashi, B'Pishpesh, Petach Katan Haye B'Beis HaChalifais. There's this small room which is where we would keep the knives, Pasuach LaHeichel, which is open to the Heichel. Ushnayim Hayu, there was two, Echad B'Sach V'Echad V'Darm, one was in the north and one was in the south. And Kidei L'Hachshir Es Kol Hazar L'Shchitas Kadashim Kalin, Shinei Karin B'Chol Haruchos, V'Shachtu Pesach Ol Moyed. V'Gam Lul Katan Haya Patuach L'Beis HaKabaris. In other words, maybe he said it after the avoda, which is nothing. How do we know that Hitaka said it during the avoda? Maybe it was afterwards, right? You said Dilma Labasar Hachikam, it meant nothing. You have Dilma de Chayzi Lapishpesh. Maybe we actually saw Kasha. Hahudi Asa Kamedu Ramhami, Armalei Sefer Tayr Shekasavti Laplaini, Askarish Shaloi Loi Kasavtim Lishma. So I wrote this beautiful Sefer Tayr. The only problem is, when it came to Hashem's name, I didn't write Hashem's name with Shema, and that's a requirement for the Torah to be kosher. So I'm basically saying the Torah is not kosher, and it's biyada for me to be able to say this. So Amrule Sefer Torah biyad me. Where's the Sefer Torah now? Amrule biyad lokech. It's the hand of the buyer. Amrule ne'manato lahafsid secharcha. You are believed as far as we're not going to pay you anything because you gave him a faulty Torah according to your own words. and Hodos Baldin Kameh Edom Dam regarding that. V'yata Nemo Lahasid Sefer Torah. But since it's not in your hands, we're not going to believe you to apostle the Torah. I understand that he should lose out on the reward for the writing Hashem's names incorrectly. Why does he lose out on the whole thing? Right? He did some parts of the Torah he should be paid for. So when it comes to a Sefer Torah, if Hashem's name is not written properly, it's worthless. It's not considered to have any value. It's not a davar shebekdusha that you should be able to be compensated for it because it's a puzzle Sefer Torah. So why can't we just take a pen and just trace over Hashem's names and write them that time l'shma? So come on, who's that like? Name of the Rabbi Yehuda nan. Person needed to write Hashem, which is the names Yud, name of Hashem, which says a Yud, a hand, and a dal, and a hey. Yud, hey, and a vav, and hey. For whatever reason, you had the kavanah to write Yehuda, which sounds very close to Hashem's name, but has a daled, which means that your writing is shlo shma. You made a mistake. You didn't write the daled, which means you now look and you're like, oh my goodness, I actually wrote the Torah exactly the right way with the right letters. But when you wrote it, you wrote Hashem's name without kavanah. So mavril of kulmus, you can take a kulmus and umakacho, and you can just trace over it. Diva Rabbi Yehuda, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's what you could do. But the fact that we say he's not getting any payment is because we don't hold like him. Rather, it's not acceptable. So if you take Rabbi Yehuda, it's one thing if you did it one letter, one word. Okay, it was one-time mistake, so therefore it can be corrected. Although the cool Sefer Torah low, mishum demexi kemenumar. It looks like it's like spotted, and just like that's brought down Masech the Sukkah about an esrog could become puzzle if it's kemenumar, if it has like all these different spots all over it. So it's the same thing. It's not going to look good anymore if you're doing this for all Hashem's names. Hahudi also come into Rabbi Vo. Amalei Sefer Torah shekasavtu lepoini gvilin shloilo ibantim l'shmon. When it came to the gvil, or actually is the cloth, the parchment was not produced l'shma, which it needed to be. So Amalei Sefer Torah biyad me. Where's the Sefer Torah? Amalei biyad lokech. It's the hand of the buyer. So Amalei mitoich shiat and then on the house is sacharcha flips it. Since you're believed to lose your entire salary, why would a person do that? It must be in them on the house of Sefer Torah. We're going to believe you entirely, because a person is not going to stand up and passel the Sefer Torah, which is going to cause him to lose all of his money unless he's sincere. And therefore, he's going to be believed so much to even say that the Torah is not good, as we continue Nun Hey Madal. So, Ma'ishnam Rabbi Ami. So how is that different from what Rabbi Ami said, that he should not be believed to passel the Sefer Torah? So Hasim Mikol Meimar Toy Rabbi Yirmiyah. Over there, you could say there was a mistake that he made a mistake regarding Rabbi Yirmiyah. What is that? Hasim Ikol Meimar Demishaker, he's actually lying about the Torah. He's causing problems. So summer, he thought maybe, okay, I'm going to lose out a couple bucks by not getting paid for the God's name, but 99% of my salary I'm going to get. So maybe because that we don't trust him. When it comes to the parchment, he'll lose everything. Maybe that situation, maybe he's telling the truth. That's the idea. So he's losing his entire salary. He's probably going to be telling the truth, and therefore, just as he's losing his salary, we're going to believe him in this situation that he will that he will be able to passel the entire Sefer Torah as well. Okay, we did question 12. Question TA 22. So matai nemo l'kulia matai plukta abaya v'rava. Great question. So again, the question is it something in which is biyadai? So if it's Let's just see how he writes this. So, kol zman shu biyado. If it's biyado, it's neman l'kuliyama. Shena biyado. Then the Omer will nitmu havipukta, because if it was the first time that you encountered him, even though it's not biyado, so then according to one man the Omer, he's still neman, not kan.